2020 Democratic candidate Julian Castro appeared to call out CNN and defend Bernie Sanders, surprisingly, for a poll where they featured Bernie Sanders in fourth place in Iowa, and it's a poll that's 2 months old. Now, before I get to that poll, let me just show you what the current polling average in Iowa is right now. So as you see here from Real Clear Politics poll average, in Iowa, Bernie Sanders has been going up, Buttigieg going down, and you see Buttigieg in first at 22, Sanders in second at 20, then Biden at 18, Warren at 16. But as Chicky Hearn on here on Twitter tweeted out, CNN is now saying Bernie is in fourth place in Iowa. They had to use a poll over a month old to misinform its audience this morning. We have had over 15 Iowa polls released since then that have Bernie in first or second. Still think this is not deliberate. And as you see the screenshot here, they got Buttigieg way in first here in this old poll from early November, and Sanders down in fourth place. Now, also pay attention here to the chyron where it says Klobuchar launches ambitious bus tour before Iowa caucuses, because that's going to come into play in a minute here. But let me show you how Castro responded to this, because again, yeah, there were so many other polls that they could have pulled from, but they used their own poll from 2 months ago. Now you may think, well, I guess CNN, they want to use their own polling, but networks, including CNN, use other people's polls all the time. It's totally normal. So why would they choose this poll from 2 months ago where Bernie's in fourth place? But Castro here responded to this. He quote tweeted that tweet, calling out CNN, saying, "If CNN actually aired this poll today," which they did, "it's unacceptable to use a poll from 6 weeks ago simply because they paid for it. Publish a timely poll instead. Journalistic integrity shouldn't be sacrificed for corporate interests." Now, candidates defending other candidates doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I have to say, it makes me a little more open to that candidate. So, look, I'm full on, supporting Bernie Sanders, but in terms of being a politician, this shows you that Castro is at least a real person, and he's willing to call out BS regardless of where it is. So if it's BS about someone else in the race, in this case, Bernie Sanders, and I guess you could even say Warren and Biden in a certain sense, because they're doing much better as well now in Iowa, then he'll call it out, and I'm going to appreciate him over this. Now, let me also show that this poll was used a second time. So they didn't just use this poll once. They used it twice in the same day, even though, again, this poll is 2 months old. So Jordan Sheridan tweets out here, "For at least the second time today, CNN just used the same Iowa poll from the beginning of November to show Bernie Sanders in fourth place. Meanwhile, in reality, he is currently in a close second place, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls in Iowa." So let me show you this clip of where they used this poll a second time, and notice that once again, this conversation is focused on Amy Klobuchar.
Last Iowa poll from the Des Moines Register CNN poll, it showed Klobuchar at about the fifth place. Still, there's still time, of course, but she's made some inroads, but still behind. Olivia, how does she make she's trying to appeal to them in the moderate lane, of course. Biden is trying to do similarly. How does she distinguish herself from Biden as she appeals to those voters?
Well, that's a really good question. But the first part of the answer is she's a woman. She's younger. She is not Joe Biden, who's been in politics for decades and decades and decades and decades. Clearly going after a lot of earned media in Iowa. She did have a good debate. She did. She punctuated a lot of her answers with a good one-liner. It was a memorable debate. It was a better debate overall because we no longer had 3,500 candidates on stage. But to capitalize on all of that, I mean, you can hear it when she's campaigning. She asks people, "Did you see the debate? Do you remember the debate?"
All right. How they continue to talk about Amy Klobuchar when it's clear she's not in this race is beyond me. I mean, it's obvious they are really trying to push her after every single debate. They continue to push Amy Klobuchar when she has no support. It's crazy. So this makes me think the reason they actually use this poll isn't necessarily because Bernie's in fourth place, but because this is actually one of the polls where Amy Klobuchar is doing better in Iowa. Believe it or not, other polling with Klobuchar in Iowa shows her in worse positions than she is here. So this would, like, using this poll simply goes to their narrative of, oh, I mean, sure, Amy Klobuchar is way down there, but I mean, maybe she has a chance, and try to create some discussion off of this, even though there's no basis in reality at all. And look, another part of this is, I worked in television briefly. I worked in television news briefly, and it's the holiday season. They have their holiday crew on. So another part of this is maybe you have the holiday crew not really care what poll they're using, and they see a CNN poll. Oh, okay, I guess we got to use a CNN poll, so let's get this one from six weeks ago. And basically, there's less oversight during the holidays. People that are working during the holidays clearly have other things on their minds, likely wish they weren't working the holidays. So people just try less oversight. You're trying less. You may have, situations like this where you put up a poll that's 6 weeks old, has no bearing at all in the race. But because you got the holiday crew, and because you got to find something to talk about, to use to talk about Amy Klobuchar, well, I guess we got to use this poll. So I really look, there definitely is a Bernie bias, a Bernie blackout, 100%. But in this case, I do think a lot of it is just people being totally incompetent, and people looking for, the crews, producers, whoever it is, the holiday crews, holiday producers, looking for a reason to discuss Amy Klobuchar that has her in a position that isn't at 2% support in Iowa. So having her out, what is it here? 6% is, impressive enough to somehow create a conversation out of this and invent a magical world where Amy Klobuchar can win any state, which clearly she's not going to, and she'll be out of this race fairly quickly.